There is one thing that I did in my life that I can confidently tell you completely changed my love life forever. And this one thing is so transformative. It's so radical, but so simple. And you would think because it's so simple that everyone would do it, but there's such a bridge you need to cross in order to implement it in your life. This one skill is to take personal responsibility. We have this tendency as people to get into blaming mindset and being the victim. As soon as we shift responsibility away from our core and put it onto someone else, what happens is we label ourselves as a victim and we completely disempower ourselves and our life. Now, why did this completely transform my love life? Because the pattern of being a victim and blaming of people that had hurt me, crossed my boundaries, transgressed me in some way, was completely disempowering me from realizing that I am creating my reality. And in relationship, I am 50% of that creator. So if I go into a relationship expecting my partner to show up and make the relationship great, all the while what I'm offering is this victim blame kind of toxic energy, of course the relationship's going to crash and burn. It can't be anything other than what I bring into it in the first place. So I was stuck in that pattern for probably a good 15 years where, the same things kept happening, the same patterns, the same way we got together, the same way we'd break up. And I got into this habit of thinking, it's just because I haven't found anyone. There are no decent men left. All men are the same. All these kinds of labels and beliefs that disempower the person that I'm wanting to be in relationship with. That in itself is incredibly harmful. Because if you're walking around or, meeting people or swiping on dating apps, thinking with this framework that, all men are going to hurt you, you're only going to attract in men that hurt you because that's what you're putting out there. So by taking personal responsibility and looking at my 50% in all of my relationships and noticing my internal patterns of response to things like a partner not meeting my expectations or them not being or fulfilling the role that I had thought that they were going to step into, which are all projections of my mind, right? And we get this thing thinking that, they automatically know what they should be doing. They should be mind readers. So that's a problem pattern in itself. I looked at the core reasons as to why I was doing that. And it is this process of externalization that I learned from childhood. We innocently learn this pattern of being the victim and blaming from when we were children because we don't have the internal resources when we're young to see outside of who we are and see where the other person's at. As a 2 or 3 year old, we don't have the cognitive maturity to see that our parents are going through a difficult patch in their lives or, one person really needs to divorce the other person and that it's actually going to be better for us in the long run that they're not together. We don't have the internal resources to do that. And so we feel hurt and we automatically blame what's going on around us. And of course, that's completely valid. Like there's no other solution for that when you are a child because you are under the care of adults, right? You are entitled to a degree to be looked after and cared for by people that are mature, emotional, human beings that are good role models. Now we know, of course, that's not always the case, and a lot of us didn't grow up with that kind of role model in our life. But that's where the internal victim blame tendency came from. And so if we don't heal that relationship we had with our parents initially and, with our friends and whoever else that we came into this victim blame situation with, by the time we become adults and we bring that into our love relationship, we bring in a whole host of, expectations and past hurts and trauma into that container. And at the flick of a switch, we go into victim blame mode. I see it happen all the time. particularly with the use of the word narcissist on forums and on the internet. It is such an overly used term, and it's a really quick and easy way to get into that blaming mode. Oh, they did it because they're a narcissist. But the reality is that disorder is really only applicable to a small percentage of the people that are being accused of being that. So why is it so difficult to take personal responsibility? What is it about this really simple technique that, why isn't everyone doing it? I think a big part of the issue is that in order to take full responsibility for where you are at, you have to actually open up and look inside and acknowledge what's going on in there. Acknowledge the corners of hurt and disgust that you are experiencing for yourself. There's some pretty ugly stuff that goes on in there when we come from this, decades, these cycles of constantly blaming others. We're effectively deflecting what's going on in us. So opening up and really taking a good, long, hard look at what is within us is incredibly confronting, and in itself not so simple, because often it's best done with, the help of a therapist or a coach or a very good friend. And when you start to look in there and you start to pull out the pieces and, air them out and shine the light in, it's sticky, dirty business, because we've literally got nowhere else to look. We can't run anywhere else. We are left with what is the truth within us. But what you'll notice when you do that work and start to open up and pull out those icky internalized parts of who you are is that you're actually internally a reflection of what you see around you on the outside. The two work symbiotically. We're very much relational beings, and if you only see the bad in people and circumstances and you're wearing a negative filter, that will feed and grow your internalized sense of self. Now, by nature of reverse, if you start to shift your perception and start to feel gratitude for the gifts in your life and for the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, that simply, you'll start to shift your internal sense of self as well. And those dirty, mucky parts will start to come clean. So taking personal responsibility is not only about really fully acknowledging and addressing who you are and the shadow parts that exist within you, but what you choose to see on the outside of you, how you choose to show up for yourself in your life, in what you are seeing and perceiving in people, places, and things around you. Because at the bottom line, really honestly, we have a choice. Even when you think you don't have a choice, you are choosing to be stagnant. That in itself is a choice. So personal responsibility is a choice to either shift and do something different, or to stay stagnant and stay the same. And both of those actions are choices that you are making every day. Now, here's the beautiful thing in relationship, and why this simple tool works so well in relationship, is that because when you start to acknowledge and clear out the shadow parts of who you are, and what comes in and floods in its place is, deeper gratitude and love for who you are, because you actually get to see the beautiful gifts you have to offer the world and offer people. That process works to see the gifts and see the love and blessings in the people around you as well. So one of the things that I noticed that taking personal responsibility for me in my life it had the most profound effect on my relationship with my family. In place of hurt and childhood transgressions that had built up over and over and, was kind of bursting out of me, when I started to do that healing work and started to see the beauty inside me underneath the garbage and the trash that I'd been pushing down and suppressing, seeing that inside of me allowed me to acknowledge the fact that they were gifts that my family gave me. I was raised by people that had, huge love. And that kind of compassion, that level of connection to your family is incredibly healing and transformative for your relationships then with your partner. You'll literally be rewiring the way that you see your partner and the things that you choose to see in your partner every day and the way that they show up for you. So instead of coming home and seeing, their clothes on the floor or seeing the things that they didn't do that you asked them to do, whatever it might be, you've got this filter of gratitude and compassion for where they're at. And you can come to set boundaries and ask for needs to be met, like housework or whatever it might be, from this place of compassion and understanding. And that is such a bonding agent in relationship. So how do you go about taking personal responsibility for everything in your life? What's the first step to get there if you're absolutely sick of the place that you're in and you feel so angry and frustrated with everyone around you and you're kind of in this deadlock? What do you actually do? You need to start with the absolute smallest of things. If you try and take too big a step, you're going to overwhelm your system and you're going to give up because it'll seem like it's not doing anything or it's not giving you the gains that you expect to get. Like, if I'm going to make an effort to do this, I want to see how it works straight away. That in itself is a disempowering mindset. So you need to start with the smallest of actions. And one incredibly powerful way to start getting yourself out of being the victim is to see the gifts that you have in your life and the gifts that you bring to your life and to the people around you. Now, that's slightly harder because when you're in victim blame mindset, you've generally got a pretty low sense of self-worth. So it's quicker to start with the mirror, which is your environment around you, to start practicing gratitude journaling and writing down just 5 things every day you're grateful for. And they can be the smallest thing, but it's so important that when you write it down, you feel the feelings of gratitude. You're not writing it down thinking this is a ridiculous exercise. Why am I doing this? It's not going to make a difference. You need to suspend your disbelief and you need to trust in the process of feeling different feelings internally for your external environment and the power that that's going to then have an effect on your internal sense of self-worth. So who knew that taking personal responsibility could have such a profound effect on your self-worth? But when you look at it from a bird's eye view, it makes complete sense because the process of taking personal responsibility is you actually empowering yourself to show up finally in your life, take the driver's seat and put your hands on the steering wheel and make the choice of whether you're going to turn left or right. And what's really important when you do start to do that is to make a choice, make a decision. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. You learn from all the mistakes that you make in your life, and it is always valuable to make those mistakes. You can't learn and grow from constantly doing the right thing, which is an arbitrary concept anyway. So empowering yourself to actually show up for yourself externally and internally is to know that you are in the driver's seat of your life, that you have a choice every day as to how you show up for the relationship you have with yourself. You're either feeding that relationship with yourself or you're feeding scarcity and the shadows and corners of yourself by blaming your circumstances on people, places, and things around you. So I hope this little insight's been enlightening for you, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below if you have any questions about this concept around personal responsibility. It's the first time I've really opened up about it here on my channel. And if you want to know more about my story personally, I go into it in depth in my webinar, and you can watch that in the link below. And if you are interested in chatting with me one-on-one about anything that I've talked about today, and you are interested in knowing more about how to join Love by Design, my group coaching program, my calendar is in the link below. And in the meantime, here are some of my videos that might help you to go through the processes of taking personal responsibility that I talked about on the video today. And for now, I will see you in the next video.